BFGoodrich Porsche Club GB Championship is the 6th season in which Porsche enthusiasts have the chance to chase one another around the racetracks of Britain and indeed Europe. The class structure remains the same, 4 classes divided by engine power, and more than 70 drivers have registered for the championship. They first met up at the pre-season test day at Snetterton, where they had the chance to have a look at engine and car setup and also to meet the coordinator, Jeff May.
I think this year we will possibly see over the different circuits that the Carrera 2/944 will come good. But it's absolute guesswork to say that, because I think the Tech and Regs board, hopefully that they've got the weight right for the Carrera 2, are going to make it a very interesting season right down the line.
Last year's champion Steve Kevlin will race the exciting Open 944.
The chassis is, it uses the same basic components, but the chassis is stiffened in certain areas to try to return the rigidity that's lost when the roof is cut off. So it's got additional chassis members in here and there. It's got a lot of extra weight in the car. Although it's low down in the car, it's still there. So we carry a bit of a weight penalty. But because the weight is low, it helps to reduce the centre of gravity, which hopefully will help us in the faster corners. So you're looking forward to Zolder?
Well, I'm going to Zolder as a spectator, and I think that's probably the safest place to be, standing watching it, especially Class A. But I know what it's going to be like. I mean, I was sort of dubious about whether to actually race at Zolder or whether to miss it and start at the next one. And I think that in view of the seriousness of the operation I had, I think I would be silly to start racing on foreign territory. But I know I'm going to stand there wishing I had a bloody car with me, and I'm going to envy everybody that's out there, because I would love to race at Zolder. But it's going to be a hell of a race.
The first 2 races of the season were held at Snetterton in Norfolk and Brands Hatch in Kent. But we pick up the BFGoodrich action on the first of 2 trips abroad to the Zolder circuit in Belgium in early May. There are 12 rounds in all, of which drivers will count their 10 best scores. And coming to Belgium, Robin Gray leads Class A by 1 point, Bob Berridge Class B by 8. In Class C, Serge Davis leads by 11 points, and already Keith Norman has an 8-point advantage in Class D. The weather was excellent at Zolder for this opening round. A super opportunity for the Porsche competitors not only to enjoy their racing, but also to enjoy the friendship and camaraderie which has made the Porsche Championship so popular among these club competitors. Waiting for the start then behind the pace car, the grid, stationary with pole position Tony Dron, looking very serious about Zolder here. 3rd round of the championship, alongside him Mike Jordan in the 944-2. Mike, of course, a former champion back in 1988 when he won the series overall. And behind those 2, you'll find the likes of Steve Kevlin in the open car, and as the flag goes down, a cracking start from Tony Dron there, the white AFN car leading as they go up to the first corner at the tricky Zolder circuit. It's Tony Dron who leads, with Robin Gray trying to come through in second place, as indeed was the yellow car of Roger Payne, but Payne's off. Roger Payne off into the first of the chicanes here at Zolder. In car then with Chris Millard lying 6th or 7th at the moment, chasing Brian Robinson, and there off goes Barry Williams. I'm pretty certain that was, and also it looks as though that'll be the other EWP car, probably Bob Berridge off there with him. These chicanes really catching out the visiting Britishers here in Belgium. Not being caught out there, the race leader Tony Dron, Robin Gray behind him, then Mike Jordan, a bit of a gap back to Brian Robinson and Chris Millard, then Steve Kevlin there in 6th place and leading the Class B contenders at the moment in the open car. Here we see in slow motion the incident which we caught from in-car with Chris Millard. There goes Barry Williams, indeed it is him, backwards off into the sand. Bob Berridge pirouettes also, kicks up an enormous amount of sand onto the track, which Steve Kevlin comes through there, and that certainly explains that incident. As we go back to race leaders Tony Dron, Robin Gray and Mike Jordan. Robinson and Millard, and there's quite a gap back. There's Barry Williams again. Yes, well, Barry, now he's tried 2 of the chicanes. I think he's only got another one left to have a go at. He'll get to know the marshals pretty well. Anyway, Change in the leader here, though, in as much as Tony John now demoted to second place and being chased very hard indeed by Mike Jordan, but it's Robin Gray now who's up into the lead. John second, Jordan third. Millard moved up into fourth place ahead of Brian Robinson. The marshals very busy indeed with their blue flags on this narrow and twisting track. Robin Gray easing steadily away now. Number 11, the blue flag activity there, and it's out the blue flags being waved at because we're in car with Tony John, and there, up into second place around the inside on the tight left-hand first element of that chicane, went Mike Jordan in the 944, so Tony John's in pole position now, having slipped down to third place. So Gray it is who leads, second is Jordan, third is Tony John, but now being challenged I think by Millard. Millard's got the tighter inside line, but no, no, Tony John's not going to let the Birmingham jeweller pass at that particular point on the circuit. And so maintains his third place. Millard and in very close company indeed, tucked in behind him. Gray, then Jordan, Tony John, Millard, Brian Robinson, these five very evenly matched, but Millard challenging again as they come up to the same point on the circuit earlier on, at which Tony was passed, and he's passed again. And so Chris Millard now is third, Tony John slips to fourth in the Carrera 2, and you can see just how hard the drivers have to work here at Zolder. It's a very tight, tricky little circuit indeed, and you really need to know your way round it. Steve Kevlin in the cabriolet comfortably leading the Class B division, and we go in car with Steve in the open-topped Porsche. I think this year's Steve's first experience of competing in an open-top car, and it'll take a little bit of getting used to because you're undergoing different pressures in that car. Your head's buffeted about a little bit more, being open to the elements. But now back with race leader, headlights ablaze, and he needs them because look at the effort being put in now by Mike Jordan in second place to try and wrest that victory from Robin Gray, and Mike Jordan's all over the back of Robin Gray. It makes me wonder whether Robin's got some sort of problem, because Jordan really has picked up an awful lot of tarmac over the last 2 or 3 laps, and he's right with Robin Gray. There's the checkered flag. Gray it is who takes the checkered flag and slows right down just as he passes it. Brakes, I wonder, surely can't have been running out of petrol. Anyway, Robin Gray takes the victory. Mike Jordan finishes in second place. The checkered flag is shown to Brian Robinson, who finishes third. Barry Williams follows him across the line, but of course isn't fourth, having had those 2 earlier spins. And in Class B, Steve Kevlin wins from Vic Ferguson and David Warnock. And the results from the first race will form the grid for the second. But what was that problem for Robin Gray?
Yeah, on the last lap, going into the corner after the pits, the left-hander, there was this enormous bang, and I thought I'd broken a wheel centre or something. So I was in 2 minds about whether to continue, but as I was in the lead, I wasn't about to stop. So we just went around with this dreadful banging and vibrating, and in fact a rear wheel bearing had come loose. So it was a question of was the wheel going to fall off or not. So thankfully I decided whether or not to stop immediately after the line and risk the car getting hit by someone else and jump over the pit wall. Luckily no one hit it.
Luckily indeed for Robin Gray, because he needs the car again tomorrow when he'll start the pole position for the second A and B race. Well, here we are with the C&D cars. Edwards, quickest man in Class C, leads the field. The quickest man qualifying in Class D was Paul Robinson, who leads the Class D field as they storm round the opening lap. Then Paul Edwards there, chased very hard indeed by David Lees and by Paul Goldstein. The chicanes very, very tight indeed, as you can see them once again, being very tightly bumped C&D field. This could cause some problems for someone at some stage in this race. Already there's the first one of the problems then, which is 210, the car of John Chappell goes off, but back with the leaders, and a comfortable lead indeed now being developed by Paul Edwards, with David Lees behind him. Goldstein there in third place. Fourth is 214, that's Andy Monaghan. Fifth is 227, Wayne Ferguson, son of Vic. Those 3 very evenly matched indeed, battling for third place. But this man, Paul Edwards, comfortably in command of the race at the moment, although David Lees is not that far behind him. Paul Edwards is also former class winner back in 1988, 87, 86 and indeed 85. So one of the most successful ever of the production Porsche races, and determined to make 1990 another year in which he went something home. 2-1-5, that third place battle has caused Paul Goldstein to disappear off into the sand, and judging by the depth with which the car was sunk in it, he ain't going to be coming out. Edwards still leads from David Lees as they come to the checkered flag, so it's Paul Edwards who wins. David Lees finishes in second. Wayne Ferguson claims third place, and as they cross the line onto their slowing down lapper, a wave from the two drivers who'd contested the victory. Once again, I think emphasising the friendship between the competitors in this popular series. Class D won by Keith Norman, with Paul Hogarth and John Edwards finishing second and third, and again these results from today's race will form the grid for tomorrow's second half of this third championship round. The rules for the championship, of course, one of the reasons why the racing is so close is that the classes are divided by power and not by capacity. Class A for cars exceeding 208 horsepower, Class B for cars from 181 up to 208, Class C is for cars 141 to 180, and then Class D for cars up to 140 horsepower. It's those Porsche Club regulations which really have made the racing so good. So then starting from pole position is Robin Gray, with alongside him Mike Jordan, then Brian Robinson on the inside of the second row of the grid. In order to get the pole position on the wrong side of the circuit here at Zolder, which means that it's on the opposite side to where it is on most British circuits. So John in number 7 there, having started yesterday's first race on pole, slipped down in the race
What
itself.
did you do when you got sand in your shoes like
Barry
me?
Williams, despite his frequent to the sand, ready for his second Zolder race of the weekend. And as they start, it's Robin Gray who makes the best of the start, but Millard is there though, and Millard is going to be who leads into the first corner. Ooh, but only just. Chris Millard then leads a few locked brakes as they funnel through that tight first left-hander at Zolder. Nobody visiting the around the track station game was opening lap this time. Everybody learnt that particular lesson yesterday afternoon, and Millard it is who leads this time. Robin Gray second, Brian Robertson is there in third place, fourth is Gronk, fifth and leading Class B, very good overall fifth there, although bouncing over the curve. Very long, Steve Kevlin in the open top cabriolet, and Mike Thornton there down in sixth place. As we go back in car with Chris Millard in the turbo, and you can see sawing away at the wheel, slipping it through his fingers, very nearly keeping 10 to 2. Proud of you, Christopher. And it is Chris who leads. There's nothing on the road ahead of him at the moment, and if he can pull out a little bit of an advantage in the early stages of this race, then it may well be that he can do something about Robin Gray's victory from yesterday, because the two races are scoring half points for each race towards the championship too, so it's worth him coming home ahead if he possibly can. Bouncing all over the curves he is though. As we saw him going there, back down through as he brakes for another of the chicanes. The RA Porsche Motors car still leading them, although as you can see there from a quick glitch, as we just see Steve Kevlin losing an overall place there, slipping down to sixth place. Barry Williams, of course, on number 9, bouncing all over the curves, but not into the barrel traps, having to make up for his poor performance here yesterday. Millard leads from Gray, Brian Robertson is third, fourth is Tony John, fifth is Bob Berridge, of course, there, and leading Class B just ahead of Steve Kevlin. And off, as I talk about it, off he goes. Second time in 2 days Bob Berridge has had a problem because he was one of the spinners off at the chicanes here yesterday. Millard still leads though through the right-hander, sawing away at the wheel. No, he doesn't lead anymore. Robin Gray, not only has Robin Gray found his way past, but so has Brian Robinson. But I think the extra power of the Millard turbo along the straight here might at least snatch back second place for him, although I don't think he's going to be able to get close enough to Robin Gray to retake the lead. No, he doesn't, but he holds on and defends that second. So Robin Gray leading and pulling away from Chris Millard as they go through the chicanes. Gray is leads, Millard is second, Robinson is third, and Tony John doing much better than he did yesterday, holding on, keeping in much closer touch with the leaders. as Barry Williams comes through to move up and get himself into a little sandwich between the Class B leaders, Bob Berridge and Steve Kevlin. Barry, of course, keen to make up for his indiscretions, and I think he'll soon be past Bob Berridge, possibly even capable of getting onto terms with these four guys at the head of the field. Robin Gray then leading, Chris Millard coming under increasing pressure from Brian Robertson. This may be the lap that Brian Robertson can find his way past. Let's have a look under braking here. This is where they eased past last time. Yes, he does. And so Brian Robinson up into second place. Chris Millard throwing the 911 around Zolder, but to no avail. He's lost his second place and indeed is about to sit back into the wrong if he's not too careful. Class B then still with the Kevlin battle going on behind, as across the line once again goes Robin Gray, Brian Robinson, Chris Millard and Tony Dron nose to tail, much as they have been throughout this race, these four cars. Barry Williams now up into fifth. Still the Class B battle is led by Bob Berridge, with Steve Kevlin desperately trying to find his way past, and for the moment failing to do so. Touch right in behind them. Also something which gives Steve Kevlin a little cause for concern is another of the 944 out of Class A, Mike Jordan. Back in car then, this time with Tony Dron. We're behind Chris Millard, and we're coming alongside him under braking for the chicane, frantically wave through flags for the marshals, and we spin. Well, it all looked ever so good up to then, didn't it, really? Well then, Tony Dron made a little bit of a mess of that one. Here is Bob Berridge, comfortably in the lead of Class B now. Steve Kevlin having disappeared on that battle. As we go back to see Chris Millard now coming under pressure of Barry Williams, who's picked his way up through a lot of the slower cars, recovering from his visits yesterday, and right onto the tail of this man we're now in car with, who is Chris Millard, and I suspect, yes, there he is, we can catch a glimpse of the white car now directly into view. Barry Williams, I'm pretty sure whether that was a finger or a thumb. I think it was a thumb, saying well done the lad. So Barry Williams now up into third place, headlights ablaze on the exclusive 911. Touch of sideways motoring there from him, as emerging from the pits comes Mike Jordan, so he had a problem there as well. Checkered flag then, headlights ablaze. Robin Gray does it for the second time in 2 days and therefore claims maximum points from the visit to Zolder here in Belgium. So Robin Gray claims victory. Brian Robertson is second, Barry Williams this time is third, and in Class B it's Bob Berridge, Vic Ferguson and Steve Kevlin. But it wasn't all that easy for race winner Robin Gray.
Well, I had to be very careful to try and preserve my brakes because it's so hot today, and similarly I didn't want to wreck the tyres either, so I just had to go just hard enough to hold him off. I really thought he was going to get past at least 3 or 4 times in the first few laps, but then he just fell back a little bit and gave me the breathing space I needed.
Yeah, and you eventually managed to pull out a fairly comfortable cushion there.
Yeah, that's right. I'd been very kind to my brakes in the first few laps, so I think that really helped. I think Brian's brakes were probably going off because he was pushing very hard.
So then the Belgian flag drops on the 4th British Porsche race of the weekend, and the last one, which is the second of the 2 Class C and D races, and once again it's going to be a battle between Paul Edwards and David Lees, and it's Edwards who leads into the first corner, or does he? Yes, he does. So Paul Edwards, David Lees, the man who finished first and second in the first of the C and D races yesterday, making the play here once again today and leading the C and D contenders as they stream round the narrow Belgian track for their second exciting race of the weekend. A lot of curb bouncing going on by both the 2 leaders, Edwards and Lees, tucked right in behind. Edwards still is 227, which is Wayne Ferguson, who ran from high up the field here yesterday as well. 2 4s appearing in Class D. About 10 lengths though, Paul Edwards soon pulls out as he's coming through a number of the chicanes, easing his way further ahead of David Lees, chasing another race victory. And whoops, no, an action replay, not from yesterday as you might expect, but actually from today once again, as poor old Paul Goldstein has yet more trouble with the Zolder track and disappears into a cloud of dust, from which he looks as though he's likely to recover, albeit losing a place or 2 in the process. Just about gathers it all back together and continues. Little 356, a very popular car here in Belgium as well. Caroline Lucas's car, as the checkered flag is shown with the tail ender ahead of him to the winner, Paul Edwards. Second, not far behind him, comes David Lees. Not a lot in it once again between these two. The order, however, as it was yesterday. So Paul Edwards wins from David Lees and Wayne Ferguson in Class C. And in Class D, Keith Norman claims victory from Paul Hogarth and Dave Lentle. So coming back from Belton, Robin Gray leads Class A, Bob Berridge leads Class B, Serge Davis Class C, and Keith Norman Class D. And so into the fourth round of the 1990 BFGoodrich Championship at Alton Park. Well, the weather in Cheshire hasn't been as kind in practice as it was in Zolder a month or so ago, which is posing a few problems on the damp track, not least to the man who starts second on the grid, Tony Dron.
Well, it's anybody's guess what it's going to be like in the race. Practice was half wet, half dry, a bit greasy. My car's going very well, so I'm full of confidence today. It can win in the wet or the dry, can't it?
I'm sure it can. Being on the front row is obviously really important.
Yes, unfortunately the old Birmingham jeweller there pipped us all for pole position. Chris Millard's just in front of me, so I have to keep my wits about me at the start and try to get a storming start.
Steve, is it possible to drive around Alton Park with one hand on the gear lever, one on the steering wheel and another holding an umbrella?
Well, if it rains the way it did this morning, we may have to.
Does it cause you any problems, the rain?
No, it sat as close as I am to the screen. I don't have a problem with rain in the car. The interior gets a bit wet as it runs down the inside, but no, I'm okay. But we've got the car set very stiff, and in the wet it's a bit skittish. And today's the first time I've driven the car in the wet, so it's all a new experience.
Well, a wet race is going to be a new experience for everybody so far this season. Chris Millard claims pole position with Tony Dron. We heard from a moment or two alongside him on the outside of the front row. The second row comprises Brian Robinson in the black EWP car and the very experienced Barry Williams in car number 9. And from the start, an awful lot of spinning wheels there. Williams makes a good start from the second row, nearly gets alongside Tony Dron. But it's Chris Millard who leads Brian Robinson second, Ron third, Robin Gray, then Williams, then Bob Berridge leading Class B. That's the way it was into the first corner here at Alton Park. In car with race leader at the moment, Chris Millard, downhill through the left-hander. You can see his car sort of fighting the grip there. He's having to work very hard with the steering wheel and a little bit sideways on the exit of the corner there, up along the straight. These damp conditions are going to be very tricky for Chris Millard. You see that he's the only one who hasn't got his... thank you very much. Who's that? 14 Nigel corner. I was going to say he's the only one who hasn't got his wipers going to combat the spray, so there's actually no rain falling as such, but obviously drivers being affected by the spray from the cars in front, which reduces their visibility quite dramatically. So Chris Millard, though, the leading position to be in, and Barry Williams challenging Robin Gray for 4th place there as they come up to the chicane and indeed taking that place from him. So Robin Gray is 5th, 6th tucked in behind him is the 9th and 4th of Mike Jordan. The rest of the field streaming through behind them. So Millard at the moment in the lead, and he'll be desperate to try and make the very best he can of this early advantage in this Alton Park race. It'll be interesting to see how successful he's going to be in that. Chris then leading with Brian Robinson. Tony Dron challenging Robinson as they come. Quite managed to find his way past there. Robinson closed the door very firmly on him up towards Old Hall. Chris Millard leading, turning into the right, and loses the lead because Brian Robinson goes through into the lead on the exit of Old Hall. Millard is second, Ron is third, Williams is 4th. Up across the line though, Millard fights back, but not sufficiently strongly. He's right in there behind him. As they get onto that straight, Millard may well be able to use the power of the turbo to get that lead back from Brian Robinson. Very evenly matched, bearing in mind how skittish these cars must be in these very greasy conditions indeed. Barry Williams going to be a bit of a hero and get past Tony Dron there for 3rd place. No such luck for him at the moment. Robin Gray closes up on him. Barry Williams, that is, as they break for the hairpin. But Robinson holds on to that lead. These 6 now really pulling away a little bit from Nigel Corner, who is next up behind him with Bill Taylor, making a return to the championship, of course, tucked in behind him in the Castrol Central X-Livery car. Mike Jordan closes up as well. Jordan, I think, probably a man to watch in this Ultimate race. Very sideways, Chris Millard costing himself a little bit of time there. Downs is thoroughly enjoying himself there because Chris doesn't like his motor racing to be made easy, by easy conditions. Loses a place though, he won't be quite so happy about that. That's Tony Dron moving up to second place now, so the position's changing once again. I was about to say under the pedestrian bridge, but of course the pedestrian bridge is now gone from Alton Park this year, so it's no longer a landmark of the Cheshire Circuit. So into the hall once again. It's Robinson leading as we glance back further down the field to some of the Class B runners there. 126 Dave Warnock, the 944 has no back, there's a lead change, and Tony Dron finds his way past the inside of Brian Robinson there. I'm not quite sure how he did that, but he did it very cleanly and tidily indeed. And while all of that's been going on, Mike Jordan, the sort of dark horse in this race in the 944, has been steadily picking people off. He's picked off Barry Williams, he's now picked off Chris Millard, he's got himself up into third place, and definitely in a with a fighting chance of challenging for the lead. Tony Dron it is who leads at the moment, the editor of Classic Cars magazine, of course. Tony, and an ex-Touring Car Championship racer in Dolomite Sprints, also did a season or two in Formula 3 for the Unipark team when they used to have the Dolomite engine in the back of the F3 car. So Tony, an immensely experienced racer, will he be able to put that experience to good use and retain this lead to the checkered flag? He's coming under a challenge again, and he's going to lose that lead, but no, they go through Knickerbrook absolutely side by side and a little bit closer than that. But Dron it is who holds on to the advantage as they go up towards under the Dunlop Bridge at least. Again up towards Old Hall. Chris Millard, the early leader, now in fourth place, still in touch though, not that far behind them. And there is Jordan lining up on the right-hand side of the circuit for the passing manoeuvre into second place, and he does it as they come past Lodge. So then, second place now Mike Jordan, third place Brian Robinson, about half a length for the 911 behind him, but still in the lead it's Tony Dron. Brian Robinson fighting back, Jordan also fighting back, holds on to second place, Robinson third, Millard fourth, Barry Williams in fifth place, Tony Dron, the lanky journalist it is, who currently leads. And there, with the engine sounding pretty unhealthy, number 3 is Bill Taylor, as off goes number 14, that'll learn him not to have his windscreen wipers on, but I thought he hadn't done his Nigel Corner. And back with the leading battle, and it's going to be a change for the lead. No, it isn't. Mike Jordan tried to go all around the outside of Lodge there, and that actually didn't work, or did it? Is Dron going to have fought back as they come into Old Hall once again? Yes, he has. Dron it is who leads, but he runs a bit wide into Old Hall. Up into the lead goes Mike Jordan in the 944 number 27, perhaps the front-engined rear-wheel drive configuration of the 944, a little bit more suitable to these damp conditions than the rear-engine rear-wheel drive configuration of the Tony Dron car. But Dron now having to defend second place, having lost the lead to Mike Jordan. Chris Millard losing fourth place with a very undainty manoeuvre, putting a wheel in the mud at Knickerbrook there, which has enabled Barry Williams to squeeze past a car which Christopher Millard always manages to make almost as wide as it is long. And it looks as though this may well be the way that the positions will now pan out as they're up to Lodge. Once again, the orange 944 of 1988, outright champion Mike Jordan leads. Tony Dron is second, Brian Robertson is third, fourth, and a little bit twitchy and sideways is Barry Williams. Fifth behind him is Chris Millard, and the second place is going to change. Yes, Brian Robinson finds a way past Tony Dron and retakes second place, and Dron now having slipped down to third, but none of them now able, as the conditions improve. You just catch a glimpse of the sunlight there on the rear windscreen of the 944 of Mike Jordan. Weather conditions having improved, the track having dried out, windscreen wipers no longer necessary here in Cheshire, but it looks as though it's the rain that really has aided and abetted Mike Jordan claiming the result in this race. Mike it is who leads. They've got some of these slower runners now. Of course, the difference in performance between the Class A and B cars means that even on a circuit of 3 miles or so like Alton Park, they still get into lapping some of the slower runners, but hopefully Mike Jordan isn't going to find himself delayed. In Mike Jordan's terms, he will find himself delayed. Brian Robinson and Tony Dron, of course, might see that a little differently. Up comes the headlights. Well, they're both up and one's on. Close. Mike Jordan using the headlights, of course, to indicate to everybody that he's the man who's leading the race, and would they kindly get out of the way. That's, of course, as off. Now, that's where he put one foot on the grass on the last lap. Off goes Chris Millard, gathers it all back together. Turbocharged Porsches don't go frightfully well on wet grass, do they? put it all back together again without hitting anything, however. But it's cost him quite a lot of time on 5th place. Barry Williams. Dron has retaken, as we were watching Chris Millard there, Dron's retaken 2nd place from Brian Robertson. This is number 3, Bill Taylor, on his return to the Porsche Championship. And here is the race leader, car number 27, the 944, driven by Mark Jordan. And Brian Robertson lost out there in the battle of the back markers, I can tell you, because he slipped down to 4th place because Barry Williams has found a way past him and is in 3rd at the moment and right on the tail of Tony Dron, literally nose-to-tail motoring for 2nd, 3rd and 4th as quick as you say them. They come into your line of vision, headlights on for Tony Dron as well, defending that 2nd place at the moment from Barry Williams. 4th is Brian Robinson. What's the brief on those two? The man with the biggest problem, of course, out of those three, really, Barry Williams, the man in the middle, trying to find a way past Tony Dron and trying to watch his mirrors to keep an eye on Brian Robinson at the same time. Right, Jordan's enjoying watching that in his rearview mirrors. There's the AFN entry, they're on their last lap. This is the very last opportunity as they come through Knickerbrook up to the Dunlop Bridge once again. This man looks certain, short of some mechanical disaster in the remaining few yards, to win this race. I wouldn't like to say who's going to come second. Tony Dron has it at the moment. Barry Williams is right there with him. Brian Robinson seems to be happy now to let these two get on. Will Barry Williams try and challenge as they go out towards Lodge? Looks from that angle as though he was going to. We'll wait to see. Here comes the race winner, Mike Jordan. So he wins round 4 of the BFGoodrich Championship. Tony Dron finishes in 2nd place. Barry Williams is 3rd. And 4th is Brian Robinson. A great victory there for Mike Jordan, having come up from 6th in the early stages. So Class A, Mike Jordan, Tony Dron and Barry Williams. Class B, won by Steve Kevlin from Nigel Rice. And in 3rd place, Vic Ferguson. Well, at Alton Park, the Class C and D race was a rather confused affair. Early leader, number 202, was Paul Edwards, who started from the outside of the front row, leading from 226, the pole position man Serge Davis. But an incident down at Knickerbrook involving the 911 of John Collins and the 924 of Paul Layton brought out not only the yellow flags in the area of the incident, but also the red flags. So we had to have a restart. In car with David Lees at the restart then, right behind Paul Edwards, up through the gears, off the grid, and the camera picks up to the left and indeed follows it as we pass it. And Serge Davis, who started the earlier race from pole position, we're going up to 2nd place, demoting him to 3rd as we go down through Old Hall. The rest of the C&D crowd following down behind us, the leading trio there, Edwards and Lees, and behind him Serge Davis, very closely matched. Davis challenging for 2nd place as they go up towards the hairpin. And a lot of incidents in this race. There is the teammate of the earlier incident car, that's Brian Green in number 310. A very nasty set of near side damage for his 911. Malcolm Sargent also fell foul of the conditions in number 206, going off backwards, and only gently touching the tyre wall. But it's Paul Edwards who takes the checkered flag. The judges, however, deemed him to have jumped the start, doled out a 10-second penalty, which combined with the aggregate results made it look like this. Class C, Serge Davis, Paul Edwards, David Lees, and Class D, Keith Norman wins from Dave Lentle and Paul Hogarth. So the championship points after Alton, Robin Gray leads Class A, Bob Berridge leads Class B, Serge Davis Class C, and Keith Norman leads Class D. For round 6 of the championship, the BFGoodrich contenders returned to Norfolk, where they'd started their season, and Snetterton, where they provided some of the supporting programme action at the 1990 Esso Will Hire 24 Hours. Mike Jordan in the Birmingham Veneers 944 claimed pole position, with Barry Williams in the exclusively 9 at 911 alongside him, and Brian Robinson and Roger Payne making up the 2nd row of the grid. The weather was good and action promised to be superb. For the start here at Snetterton then, we're in car with Chris Millard, starting on the inside of the 3rd row of the grid. The lights are red, they flash to green, and a cracking start for us in car. He's got to get round Mike Jordan, who's made a very, very bad start indeed. We got past Brian Robinson, we're coming up alongside Barry Williams, or very nearly, looking at the inside then, going for the outside. You can't drive all the way around the outside of Barry Williams at Snetterton. I should know, I've been in a car around there with him. Williams it is though who leads. Chris Millard then a cracking 2nd place on this first lap of the 6th round of the championship. Williams still leads. Millard in 2nd place. Robin Gray there in number 11 is 3rd. Brian Robinson 4th. And Mike Jordan and Roger Payne there side by side for 5th place. Second car with Chris Millard racing away at the wheel, coming through the long sweeping right-hander at Coram. Barry Williams edging away just a little bit at this part of the circuit, and Barry Williams getting terrifically sideways ahead of us. I don't know how he did that and managed to keep hold of it, but he did. Down through the gearbox, the tricky new corner, and we lose 2nd place. That's Robin Gray finding a way past us. The Russell complex here is left in a tight right and left, which cuts speed of cars as they come out of Coram onto the straight. Barry Williams leads though. Robin Gray being demoted back to 3rd place. Robinson there is 4th. Millard is the man in 2nd place now, and the most likely man to challenge Barry Williams at present. But Williams determined to have absolutely none of it. Coming through the S's, clipping the inside curve. Robin Gray spins off. He didn't really spin off. He manages to hold on to the tarmac, loses a place, so he's 4th now with Roger Payne in the yellow 911 not far behind him. Great action then here at Snedden. There's Gray, there's Tony Roger Payne, then Tony John next up and leading Class B, tucked just in behind Tony John. There is 107, which is Bob Berridge. Good run for him. Here's Barry Williams though in the lead. Just watch the front wheels as they twitch to left and right as he stabilises the 911. Back in car with Chris Millard again, giving chase to Barry Williams, but coming upon some of the slower runners now as the race takes its course. Can't see Williams at the moment. He's hidden from one of the slower runners. Millard though storming along the Brevet Straight, up through the gearbox. Now becomes the breaking point for the S's. Picks off one of the markers. There's Barry Williams just ahead, but he's the slow runner in between us. So he's sandwiched between ours. We'll find a way past, perhaps under the bridge, but run very, very wide indeed. He's passed him through the bomb hole and waiting for grip there. Third is Brian Robinson. He's so happy with tail enders between himself and the 2nd place man, Chris Millard. But Barry Williams it is who's by far making the best of this race. This is a very slow Russell corner from a different angle. Coming back out onto the straight again, Barry Williams, one of the most experienced racers in this championship, picking himself through a lot of the slower runners. Very busy, Snetterton only about 1.9 miles long, of course, and that closes the whole thing up ever so much. Picking up tail levels from relatively early on in the race. Brian Robinson holds on to his 3rd place, giving hard chase with Mike Gervais, number 27, Mike Jordan, who made an awful start that we saw playing our camera there, and he's trying to pick his way back up through the field. Bill Taylor soon back into the swing of Porsche racing now in the purple Astral car there, chasing Tony Dron. But this is the race leader Barry Williams, chased by Chris Millard on his final lap, going through the bomb hole and round the sweeping Coram turn up to the tight complex. Almost grinds to a halt coming round that very tight corner. Barry Williams then in number 9 on his way to victory. There's the checkered flag in the background. Barry Williams takes the flag, flashes his lights to acknowledge it. Chris Millard follows him across the line in 2nd place. But Millard was later to be disqualified for a turbo infringement, so Williams leads Class A from Brian Robinson and Robin Gray, and Bob Berridge, Steve Kevlin and Dave Warnock are 1st, 2nd and 3rd in Class B. The Wilhire meeting, of course, always popular for things like cookouts and barbecues, and the Porsche fraternity no exception. Windscreen wipers on though for the C&D race, and away from the start it's Paul Edwards. David Lee's behind him, Serge Davis alongside him. The wipers going only on Serge Davis's car at the moment as they come into the first right-hander. Slightly greasy track conditions. It's going to make life very interesting for these rear-engined, rear-wheel drive Porsche 911s. These guys, of course, very experienced in racing these cars, but they're really going to need to know their way around Snedden. Edwards leads, Serge Davis 2nd, David Lee's in 3rd place. Coming through Coram. weather deteriorating a little bit, particularly as Spray gets kicked up. Of course, Serge Davis tucked right in behind Paul Edwards. These two very much the class of the race in the rather unpleasant weather conditions here in Norfolk. Somebody's really fallen foul of them there. Who's that? 225. That's the 924 of Ashley Ferniehoff, one of the slower of the Class C runners. Gets himself together there without any damage to the motor car and rejoins. But this is the Class D battle with Keith Norman in the black 911 taking the class lead from 306. His main contender there, Dave Lentil, who's been a front runner in the class so far this year. And Keith Norman's teammate on the final lap then, Paul Edwards, on his way to take the checkered flag. He's got about 10 lengths or so now his advantage over the second place man, Serge Davis. Indeed, there's a tail ender in between those two. Serge Davis now looking very much as though he's settled for second place to this man. Car number 202, Paul Edwards, claims another BFGoodrich victory, takes the checkered flag here at Snetterton, and wins from Serge Davis and David Lees in Class C, with the Class D winner Keith Norman from Dave Lentil and Paul Hogarth. So it's the halfway point of the season. Barry Williams leads Class A by 10 points. Bob Berridge leads Class B by 13.5 points. Excitement focused on Class C though, where Serge Davis and Paul Edwards are joint leaders, with Keith Norman striding away in Class D with an advantage of 30 points. And so to Birmingham in the heart of the Midlands for a non-championship race supporting the Halfords Birmingham Super Prix. A packed grid lines up for the start, and on the inside of the second row is Bill Taylor.
Well, it's possible, anything's possible, and we'll certainly be trying for it, that's for sure.
You had a terrific day last week.
Yeah, we had a good party last weekend, and we're going to present a cheque to the Cancer Research Fund for £15,000 on Thursday at Porsche Cars at Reading. The managing director, Peter Walbeck, is going to hand that money over to Professor Guy Lou, but the charity will still go on. You know, we'll hand over perhaps another 15,000 if we can get it.
Is the 944 at a big disadvantage here?
I don't think a big disadvantage. It's certainly towards the end of practice this morning, the back tyres started to slide a lot, yeah. And down the straights, the 911s do seem to be able to squirt the power on a bit quicker. So not a big disadvantage. No, I suspect Mr. Kevlin will be right up there with Mr. Burridge, yes.
We're flying something like third on the grid, so we're relatively cool, but it's a bit of a tricky circuit, so we'll have to see how we go.
It's the traffic that can make all the difference.
Yeah, I think the first two corners will be quite... You've got a bit of lady luck on your side, I think, for the first couple of corners, because it could be quite fierce in there.
Yellow flag moved away from the grid then. The marshal moves out of the way, and as the lights flash from red to green, who's going to make the best of the start? Well, it looks as though it's going to be Chris Millard in the turbo. He was on the front row of the grid alongside Mike Jordan. These two have had a cracking race here last year, and is it going to be the same? Well, it's Millard who leads. Jordan's in second place, Bill Taylor and Brian Robertson vying for third place. Then Robin Gray next up, Roger Payne and Tony Dron all there battling. You can see just how narrow it is. You really don't need to make too many mistakes before you end up in someone's kitchen. Millard then leads as they go uphill towards the Halfords roundabout through the chicane. Of course, it's used as a roundabout normally during the week. They go round the long, sweeping Halfords left-hander. Millard leads, then Jordan. We're in car with Steve Kevlin at Halfords Corner, and we're on the tight inside of the circuit, and oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, we're facing the marshals. We shouldn't be doing that. So Steve Kevlin makes rather a mess of Halfords on the very first lap, and you can see screaming left there, everybody else in his class. Well, in a class of his own, and of course on his home circuit, because Chris Millard is a jeweller from Birmingham. He leads comfortably from Mike Jordan. Third is Brian Robertson. Vying for fourth place there, Bill Taylor and Robin Gray. Sixth is Tony Dron. Seventh is Roger Payne. And they stream through the Birmingham streets packed with motorsport enthusiasts from the Midlands. Of course, Birmingham, the heart of the British motor industry. This annual motorsport festival has become increasingly popular over the past 4 or 5 years. Brian Robertson and some contact there, and that's going to cause a little bit of confusion. It's certainly going to do Bill Taylor a bit of good as we go back in the car, or should I say on car, as it is open with Steve Kevlin. Remember, Steve's recovering from that first lap incident. He's done quite well so far. He's got some quick men ahead of him. Dave Warnock is the one directly ahead of him in the 944. Not sure who the one ahead of him is at the moment. We're going up Peter Barwell Hill to the sweeping left-hander where Steve Kevlin made his earlier mistake. We catch a glimpse of him at the tail end. He gets past Dave Warnock. The other one there, 128, that's John Robinson, who gets a little bit sideways on the exit, but Kevlin holds on, so has managed to split those two. And onto the final lap, Chris Millard it is who leads. In second place is still Mike Gordon, although it looks as though he's not going to be able to offer any serious challenge, and certainly looks as though he's got some sort of problem under braking. His tires are going off a bit. In the efforts he's been making to try and keep in touch with Chris Millard, we don't normally see a sideways. We certainly don't normally see that sideways run. Checkered flag then, Chris Millard wins with Mike Jordan, the headlights coming along. Chris Millard in second place, and Chris Millard delighting the Birmingham crowd, a home win for a home driver, and in fact announces his retirement, at least from Porsche racing, following this victory on his home turf. A great day for Birmingham and a great day for Chris Millard. Confirmation of the non-championship results at Birmingham. Victory for Chris Millard, from second place Mike Jordan, third Robin Gray, fourth Bill Taylor, fifth Tony Dron and sixth Roger Payne. The Birmingham class winners were Millard, Bob Berridge, David Lees and Keith Norman, but we return to the championship trail at Brands Hatch. Since Snetterton, the BFGoodrich competitors have also raced at Zandvoort, but Tony Dron highlights the differences between Birmingham and Brands.
Well, yes, it is. I think that we all got a bit confused by the bumps there. The Birmingham circuit's magnificent, though, and I really love racing on it. But I think we're better off on known ground with this car, which we're still developing.
Brands itself is quite a challenge, however.
Yes, I mean, on the club circuit a couple of weeks ago, we were right up with them and ran to a very close second at the finish behind Mike. We're 0.7 of a second off here. I came here full of hope to put it on pole position, but I haven't managed to do that. But it looks like a very close race. It should be very exciting. And I've got one of your cameras on board this time, so I'll try to give you a good showing.
So then the cars come up to take their grid positions. Pole position held by Mike Jordan, the winner here at Brands a month ago, and alongside him in car number 9, Barry Williams, who won the Zandvoort race of the championship in Holland. These two very closely matched in the Class A battle at present. Williams still leading it as a result of a better score in the last two races. Bill Taylor and Robin Gray second on the grid. We're on car here with Steve Kevlin. And the start sees Barry Williams make an absolute cracker once again. Mike Jordan has never been the greatest starter in the championship. Not very good off the line, and Robin Gray is on his outside as they go into paddock for the first time. Is Jordan going to have defended it? Well, looking right up ahead of us, I think he has. Steve Kevlin we are with, though, in the 911, and there's an awful lot of bumping and barging going in as people vie for position as they go through Druids on the first lap. A very crowded Brands Hatch circuit this is indeed, down through Graham Hill onto Cooper Straight along the back of the pit's glorious sunlight here in Kent this weekend. Grand Prix circuit leading this, of course, so we go through the left-hander at Surtees up onto the Grand Prix circuit, and we've got sideways cars. 107, that's Bob Berridge, and a real bump for Steve Kevlin there from what looked like number 6 there, the 911 of Martin Harvey. Well, it looks as though the camera car can continue, however. No, we've pulled back off the tarmac onto the grass. Acknowledgement there from Steve Kevlin to the marshals, and it looks as though his race is run. Back there of the field though, Barry Williams leads, Mike Gordon second, Robin Gray third, Bill Taylor fourth, Ryan Robinson fifth, Tony Dron is sixth, seventh is Chris Banks there. Very evenly matched group of cars with Roger Payne bringing up the next group behind them under the Shell Bridge. Roger Payne very third happy there. The leading trio pulling away now as Barry Williams, Mike Jordan and Robin Gray, with only the largish blankets to cover the three of them as we cross the start-finish line on Bradford Straight. Williams with an immense amount of experience here at Brands Hatch. He's one of the people around his life around Brands Hatch in his time, and he's putting all that experience to good use, but he's coming under a challenge. Mike Jordan right alongside of as they go out towards Druids. Can Jordan hang on? He can't. Barry Williams is absolutely determined to maintain his lead. He manages to do so, but Jordan right there with him. Williams and Jordan, Robin Gray watching them. As we see the earlier incident in rather slower motion, here comes that dreadful thump. See how well the door of the cabriolet stood up to that. Steve Kevlin able to get out and walk away. So having lost one camera car, we better go back in car with the other one. This is Tony Dron, just losing a place to Chris Banks as we join him as they go round Paddock Hill Bend there. Uphill towards Druids. Tony Dron looks at the outside. That might give him a tighter line on the exit of the corner, enable him to get alongside Chris Banks going down the hill, but it may not. Williams, Jordan, Gray, Bill Taylor, Brian Robinson, they're the leading five at the moment, along Cooper Straight once again. Into Surtees, Chris Banks there in 6th place, and upper place goes Brian Robinson, passing Bill Taylor on the way out onto the Grand Prix circuit. These half-dozen cars now leaving Tony Dron behind just a little. Not a very happy day so far for Tony Dron here. But as he said, he's been developing this car steadily during the year. Hasn't got as many race miles on the Carrera 2 as the other 911s have got. So perhaps Tony Dron's time will come a little bit later in the season. Williams leads, then Jordan. Those two about 4 lengths ahead of Robin Gray, Brian Robertson, Bill Taylor and Chris Banks. Really, as quickly as you say their names, they come past. 14 there is the 911, recently newly painted and newly liveried of Nigel Corner, running quite low down the field, in the midfield just ahead of David Warnock. And there, much further back than we expect to see him, is number 12, which is Tom Mercer-Brew. Back with the leaders. Ray Williams and Mike Jordan still battling for the lead, and a rather sideways Bill Taylor gets gentle tap from Chris Banks. Bill goes off into the tyre wall at Druids, and although that car shows a little bit of body damage, particularly at the rear, Bill Taylor rejoins. We return to Barry Williams, Mike Jordan, Robin Gray. Was Mike Jordan really battling for the lead? Robin Gray and Brian Robinson fighting it out there for 3rd place. Chris Banks now rather lonely 5th. Up into 6th has come Tony Dron, of course, as a result of Bill Taylor's problems at Druids. So 3 pairs battling for 1st, 3rd and 5th places. As we go in car with Tony Dron to see that accident involving Bill Taylor, you see he gets a bit sideways, a little bit of contact with Chris Banks, who continues, albeit rather slower, which nearly gives Tony Dron the chance to take a place there. He doesn't quite manage to find his way past, but Bill Taylor has got himself going once again. Here's the man with the least appropriate name of the championship, Jamie Maserati, racing in his Porsche, number 39, and behind him off goes, who's that, one of the red 911s, that's 106, Robert Babican, off into the gravel trap. I suspect that he will be remaining there, because once you've got into the gravel, it's very, very difficult indeed to get out, particularly if the rear wheels are sunk in a bit. With the leaders there, Barry Williams and Mike Jordan, still 1st and 2nd. New 3rd place man now, Brian Robinson, having found his way past Robin Gray, who is now 4th and defending that place vigorously from 5th place Chris Banks. Tony Dron having dropped back a little bit once again from the 2 directly ahead of him there. Jordan sideways as he chases Barry Williams round the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. But they're on the last lap, and if Mike Jordan's going to do anything at all, he's got to do it as they burst back into the view of the Brands Hatch spectators around the bowl of the short circuit, but with an advantage of about 9 lengths or so. It looks as though Barry Williams has got this one sewn up, and the flag is waved and his headlights flash. A delighted Barry Williams claims another BFGoodrich Porsche Club GB victory, with Mike Jordan coming home in 2nd place behind him in Class A and Brian Robinson 3rd. In Class B, David Warnock claims a win, a good result for him, from Bob Berridge and Vic Ferguson in 2nd and 3rd places. Among the oldest cars in the championship is the 356 of the only regular woman driver, Caroline Lucas.
It's a very interesting car to drive and creates lots of attention, and it's good fun to drive. It's nice to see an old car out there beating the new cars when it goes well.
When it goes well. I know you've had a few problems. Would you like to change to something different, or are you going to stick to these?
I'm going to stick to this, but I've also recently bought a 911 as well, so I'd like to race both of them.
So we can look out for fun?
Yes, I've started racing the 911 in the Challenge, and I was thrown out last weekend because my car was overpowered, which I didn't know anything about, but they've put some more weight on the car to make it more competitive with the 924, so that should be interesting next time out.
Oh, we're 2nd quickest today, about just a midges off the pole position, and this beer's making a power of good.
Well, obviously, it's making a lot of difference. The longer the beard gets, the faster you go.
Hopefully, that's the action.
Is this a difficult circuit from the driving point of view with a Porsche?
Very, very difficult. I've just done some different settings on the car, and Paddock Bend was a bit of a nightmare till I got the idea of this new setup sorted out, and then it went a second and a half quicker. But it did take a bit of nerve to get it to see whether it would work.
There's an air of confidence.
I'd like to think so.
Pole position claimed by man of the moment Serge Davis, who's won the last 2 rounds in Class C, but he's very sideways off the start as the lights went green there. That's going to enable John Fletcher to get up alongside him, and indeed Lamport Trailhouse just standing right with him as they go into Paddock Hill Bend. I don't think John's going to find a way around the outside of him on that first lap. Serge Davis then looking as though he's going to be in the lead as they go up towards Druid. Somebody's made a real mess there. That was two turns. John Chappell makes a mess of Paddock on the first lap, but it is Serge Davis who leads. John Fletcher is there in second place as the Class C and D cars stream round Druids. Well, nearly all of them stream round Druids. 2-1-2. Ty Watkins didn't quite manage to get it right. Along Cooper Straight they go. Remember, Grand Prix circuit races, so they go left-handed through Surtees and up onto the Grand Prix circuit, and there's all sorts of action in the middle there. 306 getting the best of that was Dave Lentle from Class D. Back to the head of the field, where Serge Davis, starting from pole position, has got John Fletcher about 7 or 8 lengths behind him. Very good run there, quite high up the field. 303. Trevor Messett in the other of the 356s. He's running very quickly here at Brands Hatch this weekend, as the field coming out onto the curves a bit wide, under the bridge, back into the bowl of the short circuit here at Brands. This man, Serge Davis, in the pick-up least prepared car, already comfortably, if 7 or 8 lengths is comfortable, well, in Porsche racing, 7 or 8 lengths is comfortable enough. John Fletcher, the man in second place at the moment. He said a while ago that he'd been developing new settings for the car, and of course that is one of the hallmarks of this championship. An awful lot of amateur racers who don't have time to go testing during the week, so all their testing is actually done at the circuit during qualifying. Third place at the moment, 2-1-4 is Andy Monaghan. Fourth is 203 Kevin Joynson, leading this group down. And there in the pits, started so well in this race, 303 Trevor Messett is rejoining in his left-hand drive, 356. Another spinner there on Cooper Straight is 201-4 Andy Monaghan, and somebody off at Druids there, 225, not the first time he's had a problem this season. That's Ashley Ferniehoff in his 924. No problems here at Brands Hatch today though for the driver of 226, that's Serge Davis in his 911 SC, leading the 180 horsepower Class C in this race overall, with a fairly comfortable margin now over second place John Fletcher. It looks as though Fletcher isn't going to be able to find any further speed to challenge Serge Davis, who looks as though he's on his way to a hat-trick.